Aleta Rice Hansen was a four-time AIAW National Champion. She was a member of the first two Clarion women's swimming and diving teams to win national championships at Clarion, and she was truly a pioneer in her sport in other ways. Tragically, Aleta passed away in January of 2020, but we are here to honor her tonight by meeting with members of her family. So if you could, please give a round of applause for the members of Aleta's family that are joining us here tonight. Her brother, Eric Rice, her husband, Jim Hansen, and her daughter, Amy Camp. So in getting to have conversations with you guys before we started here this evening and on the phone with Jim, Eric, in particular, Jim was very insistent and rather emphatic about the influence that you had on Aleta as a young athlete. And I was wondering if you could possibly maybe share some of those stories about what you remember about Aleta when she was young and she was beginning the sport.
I think Aleta probably got hooked on diving when she accompanied me to Brandon, Florida, to go to University of Michigan diving summer camp, which Dick Kimball, as we all know, the Olympic diving coach, ran. And I had been there 3 years prior to that, and she was coming with me for the first time. I was going there to rehabilitate from a car wreck that I had, and she got to dive with Dick Kimball for the first time, and I was down there to rehabilitate myself. And in the struggle to rehabilitate myself, I really wasn't able to do that. So I think Aleta, with her competitive attitude and her ability to, her background was gymnastics, she picked up the baton and became the diver in the family. So I think she just wanted to do what Big Brother was doing, and she turned out to be pretty good. Dick Kimball noticed that she had some talent, and he was very supportive of her in her early years.
One of the things that I find really amazing is that as I went through this, am I correct in saying that Aleta was the first ever girl to dive on a boys' team in the state of Michigan at that time? Is that right?
Yeah, in '72, the year I graduated high school in Belleville, Michigan, they passed Title IX, which was the equal rights for sports and a bunch of other equal rights. Not to quote the Title IX, but in Michigan it meant that the girls could compete with the boys. And Aleta's ability, at the time, her timing was wonderful because she was a good diver. She tried out for the diving team and became a varsity diver. First girl on the swim team or the diving team in the state of Michigan. And I think that's all I have on that.
Well, that's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, she had to fight and struggle with that new system because the girls didn't even have a locker room in some of the pools they went to. So she would, they would have to find a place in the back of the boys' locker room to address, and the system itself wasn't prepared for women in the sport, which was, it was all new, and she had some ups and downs. The coaches didn't know really how to coach a different sex, I guess you can say that, but they were, it was a struggle, and she was a pioneer in that way, and I think she did a great job.
Absolutely. Jim,
Yes.
you followed Aleta's career obviously very closely here at Clarion, and you saw all of the successes that she had as an individual and that the team had as well. What do you think set her apart as a competitor when she was here at Clarion?
First of all, she's very competitive, And no matter what you were playing, a game with her or cards, it didn't make any difference. She was just one of those people that had to win at anything that she was playing. If you could do it, she wanted to try it. That was her. And when she was here at Clarion, I met her here, and she worked really hard. She practiced really hard, and that was a big part of her success. And in diving meets, and I know there's a few divers out here, you have the first round of dives, which are the compulsories, I believe they're called. And then the second half of the dives were called the optionals. And a lot of times, in most of the swim meets, I believe towards the end of the meet is when the 3-meter optionals would come up. And that's where she shined. A lot of times, she might be behind a little bit after the compulsories. But those high DD dives, the high degree of difficulty, that's where she would go off. And there's many times that Clarion was behind in a meet, and because of her late dives, including the national championships, both of them, she pulled the teams out. She pulled the wins out for them. So just very, very competitive and fair competitive. She wasn't cocky, and she wasn't a trash talker or anything like that. She was one of those people who didn't brag, just did it, So we were all very, very proud of her.
You mentioned how competitive she was in all things. How competitive was she in slow pitch softball?
Oh my goodness. In '77, Carol Clay, who was the swimming coach, I know a lot of you know who she is, during the summer she wanted to start a women's softball team here in Clarion County and take on some of the county teams. And I believe at that time Reimersburg, I'm sure you've heard of Reimersburg, but they had won the county championship like 15 years in a row. So Carol puts this ragtag team of Clarion women athletes together. We had basketball players, we had gymnasts, we had swimmers, we had divers, we had softball players, we had gymnasts. I'm trying to think of who else was on that team. But there was a whole bunch of them. She puts them together, and in 2 weeks she puts this team together with these women. And we had to play every team in the county twice. But Reimersburg, they were the kings, and they beat us the first game, and we came back and beat them the second game, and neither of us had lost any other games. Now Reimersburg is not too far from here. Was it about 20 miles or something like that? But that was the home of Archway Cookies, and the Archway Cookie Factory was in Reimersburg. Looky, Archway Cookies. But so if the women didn't work for Archway Cookies, their husbands did, or their mothers did, their fathers did. We went to that first game in Reimersburg. They had like 250 people there, yelling and screaming. These people were rabid fans. We had like 20, and so we didn't, But so it was tough, and they beat us that first game. Well, we came back and beat them the second game. So for the championship game, we had to play a rubber match or whatever, and we were supposed to be the home team, but there was something going on at our field, so we had to play in Reimersburg. Oh boy, here we go again. So the winner was going to win the championship. And on the way there, Aleta asked me to stop at Riverside Market, which used to be here. I don't think it's there anymore. But she said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm going to get some cookies." I said, "Okay." And I figured she was getting snacks. So we go to the game, and after Reimersburg did their warm-ups first, our team came out. Carol brought them all out, and Aleta brings all these Archway cookies out onto the field. She starts going around and crumbling them up and smashing them into all the bases. She went around every base, and these people are going rabid in there. They are booing, and she's out there. And so when Carol saw that, she comes running in, and they all come running in and grabbing cookies, and they're throwing them all through the infield and everything else. Anyhow, that was a very, very intense game. It went down to the last inning, and guess what? Aleta hits like a walk-off 3-run home run to win the thing. So, it wasn't, that's why I said she's not a trash talker, but she surprised me with this. But it was really fun. And then we went on and won it again next year and beat Reimersburg. And then all the girls, of course, went back and were out of school and so forth. So the team disbanded. But we got in there for 2 years, disrupted the county with a bunch of ragtag athletes from Clarion, and it was a lot of fun.
Amy, so the impression I got was that Mom threw you and your siblings in the pool pretty much from the time you could maybe potentially float. Did that give you any sort of impression of what Mom must have been like as an athlete?
Absolutely. And I have some notes because the loss of my mom can still be a little emotional. It's only been a couple of years. So when we were little, we had a pool in our backyard, and we floated. She tossed us in, hung us by our toes, and we learned to swim. Me, my sister, my brother, and I all went on to swim from the time we were in 6 and unders all the way to high school swim team. I attempted to dive to live up to my mom's footsteps. Those shoes were too big for me to fill, so that wasn't my thing. But she instilled a very competitive nature in us, and she put that passion in us. My mom did everything 100%. She later in life got a second career in IT. She pursued that. She rode the MS 150 10 years. That wasn't good enough. She had to be the team captain. My mom was amazing at everything she did, and I wish she was here to see this today.
Amy, is there anybody in particular you and your family would like to thank and like to acknowledge here this evening?
Oh, absolutely. We're very blessed. My daughter, Peyton, is following in my mom's footsteps. She competes in year-round swimming because my mom taught her to swim. And we wouldn't be here today to celebrate how amazing my mom is without the Hall of Fame committee, her teammates, her coaches, and her friends. So thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Rice, Jim Hansen, and Amy Camp.